CBS Sports put up the top 12 wide receiver trios in the NFL, and they listed the Houston Texans at number 1. And when you really...
And this is just the 3. This isn't counting the tight end. It does not counting the running back, Joe Mixon, out of the backfield, who's been pretty good as a receiver.
Yeah, and when you really look at it, I'm not sure it's that close to being, because the gap here is really, it's Tank Dell. He is the gap that other teams are not close to. So, for example, they have number 2 as the Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Yeah, that top 2 might be better than your 2. It's close. I mean, Jalen Waddle has been more consistent, but more often injured than Nico. Tyreek Hill is definitely better than Stephon Diggs, and that's no disrespect to Stephon Diggs. But their third listed wide receiver is Braxton Berrios.
He's dating Alex Earl, though.
Oh.
Do you know who Alex Earl is?
I think so.
She's a hot TikTok star. Berrios is a good player, I think.
Is.
I don't know if DJ Bieneme, who does like the Dolphins, would necessarily agree with me, but
I mean, he was solid when he was with the Jets.
I think there's a strong argument for the Dolphins because the speed of Hill and Waddle is second to none. Hill is still a cheat code. He is faster than everybody in the league still. It's not even debatable. I don't even know who I would say is the second fastest player in the NFL, but there's a good chance it's on the Dolphins. It's Jalen Waddle or it's Devon Achane.
Yeah, it's probably Achane, honestly. He's probably number 2 in the NFL. Him and Tyreek are probably the 2 fastest guys.
They got so many fast dudes on that team.
And that's where Berrios is. He's not what he was. Like, he had a really good year with the Jets. I mean, he only had 27 catches last year.
Okay, so that I thought he would have had a little bit more. He is the Patriots archetype, and I'm pissed that the Patriots let him walk.
Yeah, and that's, I mean,
he's really gritty.
He was
hard worker.
He's a good player. I liked him. Then number 3, they have the Cincinnati Bengals. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, obviously an elite 1-2 combo, and then something named a Trenton Irwin.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. If they still had Tyler Boyd, who is gone, I think that they would have a pretty strong argument.
Yeah.
To be at least number 2, if not number 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean these are the 2 that we're comparing.
Yeah, I'd say like those are the top. San Francisco. See, there's like this graphic that I'm looking at because I saw it was Will Kunkel put, like, he cropped it. These top 6 cores all have really good 2 guys. So you have Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and then Jawan Jennings. That's number 4 for CBS with the 49ers. Number 5 is the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and then Devontae Parker, which is a very good group. And then number 6 is DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Tyler Scott. And that's why
I just look at the third in all these groups, and to what you were saying earlier with Dell being the difference, you're right. Like, none of these guys are even close in their last statistical season to the same level as Tank Dell. Devontae Parker has had good seasons in the past and is a former first-round pick. The Bears guys getting thrown in there, I don't agree with that at all.
I mean, I like the top 2. Tyler Scott was like a late-round pick. He's a fine player, but he's kind of some of the other guys you see on this list where if I was not a Bears fan, I would not know who this guy is.
This is inarguably number 1 for receivers.
Yeah, as a trio, right? If duo is a different conversation. They're more likely to be number.
But so many teams playing 11 personnel
4?
now that I feel like this is the way that you should look at it,
Agreed.
especially if you want to flex. You're a Houston Texans fan, and you would think that they're going to be lined up a lot this coming season, where they've got 11 personnel. It means 1 tight end, 1 running back. I think you would assume that there's going to be 3 guys on the field at all times.
Yeah.
So,
and the depth you have, like that.
You still have Robert Woods, who has been a great pro before. You have Noah Brown, who had produced last year. John Mechie still has the theoretical promise of what he used to be, which was a guy who was thought to be a first-round caliber prospect at wide receiver. So, I mean, you want to go all the way through the list. It's pretty damn stacked.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier Hutchinson even too, like, just as like a gadget guy, and maybe he could even be just a tiny little bit more for you this year. It's by far the deepest group of wide receivers in the NFL. It's the best position group on the Houston Texans by a lot of miles, and it's very good.
I still think they would have been one of these top 5, 6, even if they didn't bring in Diggs.
I would agree with that.
I don't know if they'd be at the top, but like, okay, Brown or Woods as your number 3 here. That is comparable because the third option for all of these other teams that CBS put up in the graphic, none of those guys are screaming to me, oh, I have to really be concerned about you on a game-to-game basis. And we've seen Noah Brown last year. He had 2 weeks where he had 320 yards receiving. I mean, he basically had Braxton Berrios' production, Juwan Jennings' production for the entire season in those 2 games that he played.
Yeah, I would agree that if it was just Tank and Nico, they're probably at worst, they're probably 6th on this list. I mean, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen's a pretty good pairing. I'm trying not to let my bias show here, but
I don't know if Allen's the same guy, but we'll see.
Yeah,
it's mainly because I feel like Allen's going to be hurt.
Allen was the Texans' first choice, though.
He was. That's true.
That's true. What a adventure the Texans wide receiver room has been on this offseason. Speaking of, you sent this sent us a text today in the group chat.
Yeah.
You're annoyed. You are annoyed by Texans fans and their want for another wide receiver in the NFL draft.
So every now and when I'm on Twitter, I try not to post anymore because the next thing I know, I get in arguments with Larry and Stafford, and I'm like, why am I even in this argument, even if I'm right? And I'll see people post things, and I just feel there are so many misguided people out there. But as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft, to see John Crumpler, who I do respect as somebody who's covering the Texans on his own time, on the side of his primary gig, where he basically tweeted out like, well, the Texans could look at a wide receiver in the 2nd round. Are you effing kidding me? Stop. We have to look. I get it. Like, you don't know what Nico Collins' future is. I think he's going to get an extension. We don't know what Stephon Diggs' future is. I don't think he's going to get an extension. But the greed with which I believe fantasy football addicts want all of the weapons at the expense of every other position group on the roster, it's frustratingly naive. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that that's what John Crumpler's pushing. He's throwing out a hypothetical. But no, stop pushing this stuff out there that they need to continue to add more weapons. I feel like people forgot that they just tore up the Browns the week before, one of the best defenses in the NFL. They got Jim Schwartz, a Defensive Coach of the Year award, or Assistant Coach of the Year award. They tore them up. Then they struggled against Baltimore with injuries. And I think a lot of the struggles had to do with the interior offensive line getting worked by Justin Madubuike and others. But everyone's like, well, they didn't have enough weapons in that game. Was Stroud going to find some of those weapons? Because he did have some open receivers in that game. And people are like, it was the lack of weapons. What if it wasn't? Everyone's so sure that it was the lack of weapons that, I don't know, I felt like Stroud was regularly having to move off the spot. He avoided sacks, to his credit, to make throws, and he was probably missing guys while he was doing it. Like Baltimore, we're assuming they locked down those receivers for an entire game. I don't buy that.
Yeah, the only credence to this is the fact that currently the Houston Texans have 5 wide receivers set to hit free agency in 2025. Diggs, Collins, Woods, Noah Brown, and then I guess there would be one more in there too. So you have a lot of wide receivers are going to be free agency next year. I get why. So in theory, why you would look at wide receiver in the draft. Yet this is one of those moments, to go back to a conversation we had last week. You either have to trust Nick Caserio or not trust him. And I would imagine he is not going to take a wide receiver when they have other spots to fill. You don't need to cut Mechie. Oh, Mechie will be free agent. You don't need to cut these guys to draft someone now to fix your future problem. You need to fix other problems.
You do.
You're not taking a wide receiver in the 2nd round. I would be stunned. I think there's a better chance to take a running back in the 2nd round than there's a wide receiver.
And people get mad about that too, I bet. Yeah, there's going back to what they had said to open up the offseason and some of their future plans, where they said, well, we're looking for a wide receiver who can get open. Well, you got the wide receiver who can get open. And sure, you can make future plans. Every team is always looking for the next guy to step in who's going to be cheaper than the person who's currently on the roster. And if there is some wide receiver who falls to them at 42 or around there that they really, really like, I'm not saying don't pick them, but I'm tired of Texans fans being greedy for more weapons when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the game. He's going to make everyone around him better. And luxuries are great, but you need resources at the same time.
Yeah, fix your left guard position.
But man, imagine Lad McConkey on this.
I do love Lad McConkey.
Man, the best quattros or whatever. What do you quad?
I mean, look.
What do you call when there's four
Breathing
in a group?
deeply and
Four.
exhaling deeply.
Great foursomes of NFL receivers.
I mean,
where would it go, Joe, in your best ball half point PPR
Lad
dynasty
McConkey.
league? Yeah.
How many rounds are we talking here?
11.
I probably would take him at least in the 4th round.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, Paul, you want to bring some diversity to the room. Lad McConkey.
He sounds white.
He is white.
He is.
He's fast too, actually.
From Georgia. Yeah.
He's not like a Braxton Berrios who's just kind of trucking along, or Wes Welker. He's actually got some athleticism. So, just maybe they're going to change the culture. They've really upset Paul, Sean.
You don't upset me. What you're doing and what Sean's doing, I know you guys are joking. The problem is there are people that actually are like this, and I just think to myself, like,
they want 12 wide receivers and 4 offensive linemen on the field. Come on.
When is it going to be enough?
One more.
Cool. You're an alcoholic. One more.
One more. Wait.